Welcome to the City Show. Pat O Melia there, you there. Just finished the Memorial Day weekend. Good weather for a change. Started a little shaky. Saturday was pretty crappy. Sunday started off all right, and Monday was fine. So hopefully you enjoyed it, and you kept Memorial Day in your heart for its actual reason to honor those who gave their lives for our freedoms. It's an amazing thing when you think of all the wars for the freedoms that we have here that we enjoy. We should probably do Memorial Day twice a year. Looks like the City Show will be airing only on Thursdays now. We're in a contract renewal with Comcast, and recently we started airing the City Show all through Hudson County, and it's split between really 3 cable networks, regions. Jersey City is Comcast, Meadowlands Cable is also Comcast, and everything else in Hudson County is Optimum. So we're kind of split between 3 regions. Comcast in Jersey City has lost about 25% of their subscribers, but yet they want to increase my price per month. And yes, we pay to be on this channel, Channel 190. And I am not interested in paying Comcast any more than I should, especially when they lost 25% of their subscribers in the last few years. And no reduction in any pricing. So unless that changes, you'll notice that the City Show will only air on Thursdays, which is fine with me because we're covering more ground that way. But, we've always kind of been on Tuesday. I'll miss Tuesday, but it was only airing in Jersey City on Tuesday. So we picked up the whole county over the last few months when we made the agreement with Optimum. So if you're missing us next Tuesday, then Comcast and I didn't come to an agreement there. So we'll see how that goes. Now, don't forget everything on the screen. Subscribe to us on YouTube, like us on Facebook, follow us on Twitter and Instagram, and don't forget our live stream. That is our live stream / Vimeo. That is our base streaming network. We archive all our shows there, and there's a ton of other programming, so download the app. Also, we got a drone now in the studio, so we'll be working on that. I think John assembled the drone. So we got to do some testing. I'm going to order a few extra parts. I want to extend the landing gear. But we are updating the studio, and the newest thing we have is a camera drone. So we'll be flying around Jersey City and Hudson County. Today our topics, we're pretty much going to talk about the shootings in Buffalo and Texas. I have some other info here, but I think the entire show is going to be about the shootings. You're watching the City Show. I'll be right back.
Jersey City Medical Center is healing, enhancing, and investing in Hudson County because your heart doesn't beat just for you. So get it checked. When your bones are healthy, it lifts us all. We're delivering joy daily in our Lord Abbott Maternity Wing and providing New Jersey's only NCI-designated comprehensive cancer center. We'll continue building our medical network and taking every precaution for your safety so that we can all be healthy together.
We're back, City Show. Hello, Jersey City. Hello, Hudson County. Hello, people in the Meadowlands. What is the Meadowlands? That's Secaucus, Harrison, Kearney. We actually get in the Bergen County there. We get some of East Rutherford in there. I'm forgetting another city in there that we're in. But we pick up all Hudson County between Comcast, Meadowlands, and Optimum. But I'll miss Tuesdays if that's the case. As you're well aware, in the last 3 weeks, there were 2 mass shootings, murders that were conducted by 18-year-old kids. Now, I enjoy working with kids. We're going to be doing a high school program with the North Bergen High School. We are hoping to do the same in Jersey City, but we're running into a location problem in Jersey City. Jersey City is very expensive. And, for years where we had loft spaces and warehouses that you can convert that open space into a nice studio, they've either been converted into condominiums and knocked down, and high-rises have taken their place. So we'll keep you posted on that. But the North Bergen one probably go first, of course, because we already have a studio in North Bergen. I like working with kids. They keep me young. The more you work with kids, the younger you stay. And I try to stay young of mind as much as I can. What is amazing me is what is causing 18-year-old kids, in both cases, Buffalo and in Texas, 18-year-old kids becoming murderers. And as heinous as Buffalo shooting was at the supermarket, you think you can't top that? Well, you can when you're shooting little kids. When you're shooting 7, 8, 9-year-old kids, you actually manage to top the heinous shooting in Buffalo, which is hard to believe. But yeah, I don't know what kind of hate you have to have in your heart to look at the face of an 8-year-old kid and kill him. And unfortunately, how the whole situation in Texas was handled is flat out awful. We should talk to the people in Buffalo how they handled it. The police, the only thing you can say is they just handled this terribly. They have no training, no management, no supervision skills. And I hate to say it because I'm really pro-cop, but no backbone. These people were definitely in fear. And listen, we always talk about first responders and cops that when they're rushing in, when everyone else is rushing out. In this case in Texas, there was no rushing in. And I guarantee you, hopefully we never have to test this theory. That would not happen with Jersey City cops or New Jersey cops for that matter. We got a pretty damn good police force. A lot of these children, unfortunately, bled out why these police were standing outside in, full armor, by the way, and guns and all, where parents were screaming. That's going to be investigated for a very long time. And unfortunately, a lot of young children died, and a lot of them suffered by bleeding out before they died. Yeah, it's amazing to me because I enjoy working with kids and 18-year-old, 17-year-old kids, how they can have hatred in their heart like this. But it's basically a fairly new phenomenon that we have here with children killing children. And 18-year-old kids, they're kids. Now, killing little children, that's super heinous. There's a special place in hell for that individual when he was already there. It started to manifest itself in the late 90s, where you had Columbine, you had the Aurora Theater shooting, you had kids who were, for whatever reason, just indiscriminately shooting innocent people. And these were kids. 18-year-old kids. We had some as young as 16. I think the Alan Lanza kid was 16 years old. How they become so full of hate, we need to understand. And like I said, Columbine, I think, was 1999. I think Aurora was just right around the same time frame. And since then, and it's really building up, where it's become very common for children to kill 18-year-old kids. And you try to get your head around what is occurring here and why are these children becoming killers. You're going to hear the blame's on a gun. There's a lot of faults here. So there's smarter people than me that are going to figure out what's happening here. And we do need to figure this out. Let's start with these last two shootings. Let's go from there. And we can work our way back. But let's finally figure out what the hell happened here in these last two shootings with kids. These are 18-year-old kids that don't know their butt from their elbow, who, we talk about them being radicalized. One week they can be into this, and next week they can be into something else. Now, remember yourself as an 18-year-old, or kids that that you see on a regular basis that are 17, 18 years old. How the hell do they have the hate in them? But what also has risen, along with the killers, is the internet. That's the only thing I can correlate as to why there is such an increase and a rise in young kids, 17 to 18-year-old kids, becoming murderers, large-scale murderers. And like the Texas shooting with the 18-year-old kid, or like Sandy Hook with the little children, that's super heinous crime there. Is the social media and the internet involved in the escalation of these shootings, Because prior to the 90s, it's really rare. Like in my era, of people of a certain age, the only time you heard of any kind of shooting like this, it was the post office. And we used to call it going postal. Occasionally, the mailman would freak out and shoot up the post office. Occasionally, you had some workplace shootings. But they were, people whose lives were burned out, or at least in their mind, their lives were burned out. Their lives were going, whatever the reasons. They had complications at work. They didn't like the shift the boss was on. Whatever the case is, they went to violence. But it wasn't a case of kids. Now we have kids doing it. And as you look from the mid-90s onward, where we're dealing with these shootings with children, there's the rise of the internet and social media. Do these kid killers find individuals of the same like on social media? Do they find people who are encouraging them, who will sympathize with them and agree with them? In this small frame of time when these kids, I guess we'll use the word radicalized, can be radicalized or at least led down a bad path. And believe me, 17, 18-year-old kids can be led down a bad path. And that's what I think happened here. Fortunately, it's a minority of it. Let's break for commercial. We'll pick this up. You're watching The City Show. I'll be right back.
I've got cancer.
We've got the highest level of cancer care,
the latest clinical trials,
researchers working to find a cure,
and nurse navigators to guide you every step of the way.
At New Jersey's only NCI-designated Comprehensive Cancer Center, your safety has always been our top priority.
I've got cancer, but I also have peace of mind.
Jersey City Medical Center and Rutgers Cancer Institute of New Jersey. Let's beat cancer together.
We're back, City Show. Pat O Melia here. We're talking about the heinous shootings in Buffalo and Texas. And like I said, it's amazing you could top the heinous shooting in Buffalo, but when you're shooting 7, 8, 9-year-old kids, you topped it. Did social media play a role in this? Did they, when we were kids and somebody would be pissed off about something, we'd be under the bridge having a six-pack that we got a hobo to buy for us as kids. If somebody said something crazy like that, it would be dismissed immediately. Like, shut the hell up. You don't know what the hell you're talking about. But as we were growing up, we went from this fad to this fad to this. We're into this, we're into that. Was any of us radicalized? No. But I came from Dog Patch, so we missed everything. We missed the drugs. We missed radicalization. What we did, we tried to earn a living. Nobody had money. We worked as much as we could. It was, in my opinion, was a great way to grow up. But on social media, are there other delusionary people who are encouraging these kids to commit these crimes, saying, "Yeah, you're right. You're being done wrong. The man is doing you wrong, or the teacher's doing you wrong, or your parents are doing you wrong, or society is doing you wrong. Somebody's doing you wrong, and you're right. You should take action." You couldn't find those people in public in the old days, but you can find them on social media, I believe. And that's where I believe these problems are occurring. Maybe it's the online attention they get from some of these people, and they talk about, "Oh, I bought a gun, or I got a big knife, or I'm gonna do something big soon. Keep paying attention to me." Maybe that's part of it. And the other thing, these kids who turn to killing, and at least the Buffalo, we can analyze this kid. He's still alive. Maybe these kid killers, they're not the center of attention. They're not the social center of their groups. They're usually the outcast. And maybe the internet, they feel they're becoming the center of something. That may be the case. Did social media play a role in that, where these people start to think, these kids start to think, they're the center of attention because they're getting replies or followers or whatever the case is? Maybe there has to be some sort of correlation. We have to understand what is occurring here and what is corrupting these young kids. And the only thing I can see as I look back from the 90s to today is the rise of the internet and social media. You know, like I said before, guns will get blamed for this. But guns weren't the reason for the hate and the murders. Somehow, these kids developed this type of hate in a very short lifetime. You know, we're talking 18-year-old kids. You know, a 16-year-old, you know, they certainly weren't thinking about shooting people. Somewhere along the line, they got corrupted. And like I said, as with most cases, these kids are interested in something this week. The next week, they're interested in something different, so on and so forth. Something has corrupted them. Now, like I said, the guns will get blamed, but in Jersey City and in New York City over the Memorial Day weekend, we had fatal stabbings in Jersey City. You had them in New York City. You know, if they have hate in their heart and they want to kill, they're going to find a way to kill. Whether it's with a gun or it's a knife, their parents' car or their car, whatever the case is. If they're looking to do carnage, they'll find a way to do it. If you're hell-bent on killing, you'll kill. The question is, why are these kids killing? And that's what we need to get. We just can't, I hate to say it, move on to the next mass shooting. We have to understand what happened here now. Is there something we can use on social media and on Facebook and such, an algorithm that can spot this? But you have that pesky First Amendment, freedom of speech. Have we become a culture of violence and hate? That's an interesting question. You know, everywhere you turn now, you see violence and hate. You know, just open the newspapers, read your Twitter feeds, read the postings or the responses, where somebody will post something innocent and you'll just get so much negativity back. There's pent-up hate, and apparently, and social media is full of hate. You know, again, just look at your Twitter feeds or your Instagrams or whatever social media, Facebook. You see it in the posting and the responses all the time. You know, maybe what's happening here, people get comfortable with the hate. You know, they get comfortable expressing it on social media. You know, they don't have their real names in there. You know, the ISP is hidden. You know, DuckDuckGo, that kind of stuff. And they get so comfortable with that hate that eventually it moves out into the public. You become comfortable with the hate. It's like an old leather jacket or an old pair of sneakers. You can become very comfortable and you forget where you are, where social media or into the public world. And you see it every day. Like I said, read the newspapers, just read papers over the weekend. Read them. Murder, stabbing, murder. Father shot the wife and 3 kids. Constant violence and hate. You know, robberies at a church, you know, violence, hate. You know, I think in some cases people confuse politics with hate. Or they mask the hate with politics. Or they confuse hate with politics. Do you really hate someone for being a Republican or a Democrat or a Libertarian or an Independent? Really? But on social media, or as you see in a lot of the news broadcasts, there's an actual hate. Republicans or the Democrats, they're bad, they're bad. That's not how it used to be. You know, and I've had a problem. I've been covering politics for a long time. You know, you had all this through the campaign. You got yourself elected. Then when you went to Trenton, D.C., the job was to do the job of the people. But that never stops. The campaign never stops anymore. Everything is us against my party against their party. That's not helping us either. You know, when I look back, I went on the internet and I looked back at the New York Post to 1999, May of 1999. The holiday weekend. The stories that were prominent in the New York Post in 1999. And what you had was a big crackdown on gangs, Rudy Giuliani, what was going on in New York. One of the concerns for gang violence and violence at that time, they were talking about was a game called Doom, if you remember that game. It was a shoot 'em, first-party shooter, 3D. It was like one of the first 3D games. That was a concern in 1999. Think about that and think about what we're reading in the papers today. Now, Doom is a video game. We're reading real doom that's occurring in the papers today. All right, it's break for commercial. You're watching The City Show. I'll be right back.
Jersey City Medical Center has a passion for heart health. We're Hudson County's only full-service heart hospital with innovative technologies and premier cardiovascular physicians, a partnership with Rutgers Health, the latest technology and medical advancements, and nationally renowned care for every heart in every community. Whoever your heart beats for, our hearts beat for you. Jersey City Medical Center.
We're back. City Show. Pat O Melia here. Are you there? We're talking about the shootings in Buffalo and in Texas. You know, prior to social media, if you had hate in your heart, and keep in mind, it's a very small percentage of people that have this kind of hate and violence in their heart. But prior to social media, if you had it, you stayed in the shadows. You didn't express this. Maybe you had a little group of like-minded people that hated individuals, minorities, races, religions, politics, whatever. But you stayed in that little group. You didn't go public with this. Maybe you met once a month in somebody's basement with your group of haters. Or it just stayed in your own mind. Maybe your hate came out at home occasionally when you were watching TV and your kids got to witness some of it. That's not the case anymore. Many of those people with hate in their heart and mind have found a new outlet, and apparently it's social media. And I firmly believe there's a correlation in what we're seeing with these shootings, and the rise of these shootings with children coming out of the late 90s into today, with the rise of social media, the internet, Twitter and AOL and Messenger, all these things move this along. And so before we move on to the next shooting, and sadly there will be a next shooting or be another mass murder or whatever the case is, we need to understand what happened with these last two shootings. We just can't move on unless we understand. Now, you'd like to go back and investigate every one, but for now, let's look at Buffalo, what happened with this kid at the Top supermarket, and what happened in Texas with this kid. Now, there's a broken home scenario that's always played. Somebody brought up COVID. Well, it's not COVID. Broken homes, a lot of people come from broken homes. There's a large percentage of the population that's being raised by single mothers. My parents were gone when I was like 8. I managed to, avoid becoming a mass murderer or anything. So I'm not sure the broken home is it. Over the holiday, the Memorial Day holiday was down the shore. The kids got the house in Seaside Heights, and it's a couple of blocks on the boardwalk and the beach in Seaside. I've seen a lot of 17, 18-year-old kids. Going up to the beach. They're on the boardwalk. They're on the beach. Couldn't swim, but of course, there was no lifeguards. But there were rule breakers there. Laughing, or eating pizza, having ice cream. Guys and girls together, just enjoying life and what it has to offer after so many years of being locked down with the COVID. That's what 18-year-old kids should be doing. Enjoying life before the pressures of life get to them. Stay as young as long as you can, in my opinion. And you've seen mothers and fathers with their kids walking them around. They're going to the rides up on the boardwalk there. They're stopping, having the ice cream. They're trying to win the toy for their son or daughter at the stands. And as you're sitting there and you're looking, and you're seeing the 18-year-old kids, and you're going back to Buffalo and Texas, and you see the parents with the 6, 7-year-old, 8-year-old kids, and they're walking along the boardwalk. They got their little folding beach chairs. They're going to sit in the sand for a while. And you try to get your head around what happened in Buffalo and Texas. How did 18-year-olds become murderers? And watching those parents holding the kid's hands and one child in a stroller, How the hell could you possibly want to kill children like that? We need to understand this before it happens again, and we need to get to the bottom of it. We got a better chance in Buffalo than we do in Texas of finding out what had actually happened here. And, you know, what's going to happen in Texas, there's going to be so much investigation into the police, we probably won't get in too much in the short term with the actual killer. You know, obviously, you have some. You've seen the father, the grandmother. He was living with the grandmother. He shot the grandmother in the face. Fortunately, she survived, but you know, she'll never be right again. I realized when I was on the boardwalk watching all these kids and the parents and walking along with their children, we're not in a culture of hate and violence. There's a very small percentage of people who are like that. But all you need is that small percentage to kill 19 kids and 2 adult teachers. All you need is the one, not even a very small percentage, just the one. How do we protect ourselves against that? We have to understand how it's occurring. You know, like the kid in Buffalo, he was going to school in a hazmat suit. There's some red flags there. We need to take heed of these signs. And social media, can Twitter and Instagram and Facebook and the rest of the group, can they put an algorithm that spots that? Yeah, and then you got to determine what's a dopey 17 to 18-year-old kid and what is a real threat. And stop classifying this as terrorism. This isn't terrorism. These are 18-year-old kids that somehow got tied up in this. They somehow got led down a bad path. You know, we need to understand this, and we need to understand this now. What happened to these kids? How did they get, talking about radicalizing them. It's hard to believe an 18-year-old kid is radicalized because their mind just drifts from fad to fad to the next thing to the next thing. And like I said, from what I understand of the 2 shooters, they weren't the center of their social circle. They were the kind of on the outcast side. They didn't have social skills, and that's where I go back to social media, where people are living on the Twitters or the Instagrams where they're typing and messaging back and forth, where they don't develop those social skills or they develop any relationships, and you do become an outsider, that lone wolf sort of a person, where you don't have relationships and you live in an artificial world. And again, I don't know how long it takes to be corrupted in that artificial world, but I think it happens. And again, you're going to need smarter people than me to figure out the correlation, but I believe there is a correlation between social media and these young kids becoming murderers. And that we need to get involved in. We need to understand how this is occurring and how kids are becoming murderers, and in some cases, heinous murderers. All right, we're out of show. Like I said, if you don't see us next Tuesday on Comcast Channel 190 at 1:30 in Jersey City, you know that Comcast and I didn't come to an agreement on our programming contract. And again, let's be safe, be aware and respectful of the people around you. I'll talk to you next week. You be good. Good night.